to the 21st edition of Lawn Care Skull Sessions. I'm Ben from Catch Pro Australia. Joining me, as always, is the bearded lawnsman.
What's happening?
And we have a special guest today, ladies and gentlemen. This is Bazz Crowhurst, General Manager of Shervon. How are you?
I'm good, mate. Thank you.
Fist pumps away.
Double fist.
You don't have COVID, do you?
No.
Good.
That's
all right. We can do the fist pump.
Yeah.
So yeah, we got Bazz in with us today. We're gonna talk all things ego.
Yeah.
We've got our ego flag in the background.
Got a little mats down here.
Got a little batto here. And it's been a long time coming. We've been trying to get this going for a while, right?
Absolutely.
Just have to find the right time.
Yeah.
So
here we are.
And so everyone, we've got a little bit of an announcement to make. BJ, you want to just take the reins for a minute and hit up everyone?
So, guys and girls, everybody has been asking us to do longer episodes or give us 2 episodes a week, and we have decided to listen and give. So, 2 episodes from now on.
Yep. So we're going to have a show. When you're listening to this, it'll be like Sunday, Monday. By the time you get amongst it, we're going to be having a Thursday show dropping. It might be a little bit of a shorter episode. Depends.
It depends. It depends on how much shit we can talk. Really.
Yeah. It's just something to get you through over to the weekend.
That's it.
And we're looking forward to that. So keep your eyes peeled. Hopefully, if you've subscribed, you'll get that notification when we drop a new ep. So that's great.
If you subscribe, you'll never miss an episode. So
good stuff. So we might leave most of the housekeeping for that Thursday show.
That's cool. We got tons of shout outs.
Yeah.
Heaps of shout outs for that Thursday app. So keep your ears peeled for that one.
Yeah, and we might have someone to call out as well. Hey, we might check over with Gary from the Aussie Lawn Stars. Let's see if
we'll see. Someone's been listening, and
maybe we can do like a joint.
Maybe
and really get on.
What are you
this,
talking
dude.
like? We could do a joint and
no,
then do it?
don't do that stuff.
Yeah,
no,
see.
mate.
No.
All right, let's get straight into the show.
Yeah.
Bazz, how are you?
Going well, mate. Good to be here.
Yeah, good weather today in Brisbane.
Yeah, it was good weather in Melbourne as well, but you know what? It's a different type of heat.
Yeah.
Can you just quickly tell everyone how warm it is inside this space that we're in right now?
You know what? It's bearable at the moment, but ask me that in 10 minutes time.
Yeah.
Maybe ask me.
You're in the skull session sandwich. You're the meat in between the 2 slices of bread.
Okay, so let's get right into it now. Shervon, what's the official name of the company? I should know this.
So we've got Shervon Australia.
Shervon Australia.
So we set up the Shervon Australia business back in 2014, and then just recently we set up Shervon New Zealand.
Yep.
In
Okay.
October of last year.
And how many people pronounce this Chevron?
Too many. And Chevron obviously is in the oil industry and the petrol industry, and we're not. So
I'm not even kidding. I haven't said Shervon. I thought it was Chevron from the start.
Yeah.
I haven't said the words. I just read it. I'm like, Chevron.
Yeah.
The only reason why I bring this up in our very first correspondence, I think maybe by email or text, you had said to me, please make sure when you email that it's Shervon, because everybody messes that up.
The R before the V.
I have a lot of issues just trying to get my emails to go to the right place anyway. So, but I did succeed there. So, really, before we get into the Shervon side of things, like, what's your backstory? What's your history? And have you always been involved in this part of the industry, or is this something new for you?
Sure. Well, before I get into that, what I want to do is just thank you, blokes, for the opportunity, to bring me in on this skull session.
Absolutely.
Come to Brisbane for some business, and we thought it was an opportunity for us to all to get together. And we've been talking a lot, right?
Yeah, sure.
But you know what? We've got a bit of an ego pack here for you blokes as well. So jump into that.
Prezos. Now, if you're...
we got to look at goods. I'm going to throw my hat on.
Good sport. Now, for everyone that is listening to the content, don't forget you can head over to YouTube on the Catch Pro Australia channel, and you can... Whoa, BJ! BJ is going to rob somebody.
Yeah,
all right.
Is that what it is? 2 little holes. I'm like,
Get the balaclava hat.
Okay, just quickly before we get into the show, let's talk about these packs. Like, if someone wants one of these ego packs, how do they get one? How do they qualify?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, happy to entertain anyone that puts a post on LMCA regarding their Ego experience.
BJ, new pen.
Whether it be application, whether it be just their overall experience.
Yeah, sure. So,
PM us. And we'll consider that based on what you do through LMCA.
I guess we could probably be contacted as well, BJ, and we could probably hook that up.
Where's the G-banger?
should be in there, mate.
Well, thank you very much.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
No, that's very good. So, all right, cool.
On myself, look, I've been in the power tool industry and outdoor power equipment industry for 30 years.
Yes.
Started off with ramset fasteners, selling more of that construction power tools, impounded actuated tools, construction hammers, etc. Then was with them for 5 years, went on to Black & Decker DeWalt for another 15, and then it was an opportunity came along with Sherwin to set the business up here in Australia. And that was done in 2013. So, and then we launched Ego in 2014.
Okay.
So,
where did Ego, when it first launched, what countries did it launch in?
Okay, so Sherwin Australia, when we set up the business here in Oz, it was really about private label power tools, because our background in Sherwin is that we are in the top 10 power tool manufacturers in the world. So Ego became a part of, so from 2013 to sort of early 2014, Home Depot in the US accepted Ego within their range. Then the momentum just came from there. So we actually launched Ego in Australia on the 20th of October in 2014. Now that was launched in Masters Home Improvements.
Good old Masters.
So the big box that you may recall that, went to take on the Bunnings of the world. Now, we were in there for 2 years now. That was a direct import business model.
Okay.
Now, that's a low cost business model.
Yeah.
We sell to them. They give us an order. We give it to China. China then ships it direct. And that was really from 2014 until they were announced that they were closing their doors in 2016.
So, in this initial business model, was there? You mentioned that you had the Masters box store. Was there independent dealerships as well, like what you have now, or was it just that initially?
No, absolutely not. So, when we launched in 2014, it was Masters Home Improvements, and one other retailer that you all know well here in Queensland being Trade Tools.
Okay,
so Trade Tools were also under that direct import business model. So, and that's all it was. It was Masters, Trade Tools, just for the period from October of 14 through to really mid 2016, until we had to change our business model to then expand once we knew Masters were closing their doors.
Okay, and we will get to the dealer network eventually, but we might touch on it a little bit now. Did the commercial market have anything to do with getting inside Mower Dealerships, or is it more just natural progression, or is it just simply you've got to be able to have your product in as many places as possible?
No, not at all. So when we were in Masters, it was our Generation 1, and that was just domestic grade.
Domestic, yeah.
Domestic. Our generational 2 really didn't happen until we changed our business model in mid 2016, and then I guess our multi-generational upgrades, we then started partnering up with some of the national groups. And the way that we look at our market segment is you've got DIY, then you have that sort of weekend warrior sort of trade, and then you've got the commercial market. So we look at different channels in those market segments, and that's how we try and channel our brand and our product.
That weekend warrior, we call that a prosumer these days.
Yeah. So do we.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah.
Prosumer, weekend warrior.
So are you guys focusing a bit more emphasis on commercial these days?
Yeah, look, so I guess we're on our 4th generation of mowers. So, but our 4th generation being the Select Cut, the Dual Blade, which a lot of the LMCA members have actually bought into.
Yeah.
That's not a commercial product, but it's a solution to some of the market restrictions that are happening.
Yeah.
So our product road, really since 2019, we've had a lot more focus towards commercial because of those market restrictions forcing a lot of commercial guys into battery because of noise pollution.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's, it's HAVS, it's medical conditions that prevent them from using a petrol through vibration, etc. So
yeah, actually we saw, sorry to cut you off, but actually a local here in Brisbane, is it Chris Trigger?
Oh, yeah.
He's our mate that I think he has just switched over because of
carpal tunnel.
Yeah. So and
he didn't.
That was a direct result of us.
Yeah. Right.
So
it's a serious medical condition.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's commonly known as white finger, hand arm vibration syndrome, carpal tunnel.
BJ's got brown finger all the time.
I'm not going.
Yeah, that's not from being at on the job. That's from being in the toilet all the time.
Oh boy.
Benny's
It just wouldn't be the skull sessions without.
No, but for real, like Benny's always talking about networking. He saved my life the other day. He's given me the spot. I never knew there was a public toilet just down the road from one of my jobs, and bless his heart.
And it's one of the cleanest. It's one of the cleanest.
Although there's a big gap underneath the door. It's like what nightmares are made of. Like I could fit underneath there if I had to.
I thought.
Yeah, bit of a sidebar there.
Yeah. Okay. So can you sort of go into a little bit more about the Ego brand?
Sure.
When obviously we know it started back in, what was it, 2014.
Yeah.
So when it came to Australia, did it launch anywhere else? Like, was this in the US market before, after, at the same time?
So timing for each of the regions is that the US launched Ego globally, the US launched Ego in Home Depot of February of 2014.
Yep.
We launched in October of 2014, and then Ego was launched in Europe the following February in 2015. And then it's just slowly progressed. Well, not slowly, it's actually quickly progressed from there.
Yeah.
It's nice to know that we got something before a different market.
Yeah.
Like,
it really is.
Hearing that we got like it before, say, Europe or something.
Yeah. My next question was going to be, does the US have some really cool stuff that we haven't seen yet? Or because they're normally the ones that are banking all this cool stuff, and we're seeing social media posts, and then
Look, we prefer the US launch first because their market's bigger, right?
There's something there, Benny. There's something there.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's economies of scale too, right? You get the volume, and then you've got the economies of scale. You get better production, efficiency, and cost. All of the above.
Yeah.
So, but if there's any teething issues with that product, then we've worked all that out before it gets to Australia, right?
So, that's fantastic.
So from a QA point of view, I mean, our rate of return is minimal given the volume that we sell here in Australia.
That's awesome.
So, yes, there's some things in the US that we've been hanging out for in Oz, and one of them is the 3,000 watt power station.
Oh,
but they only deal with 110 volt over there. We're 240. To change that from 110 to 2 volt, we're talking 7 figures USD to do that. Unfortunately, the economies of scale in Australia doesn't give us the ability to do that, and we need Europe to jump on board. Unfortunately, the Europeans don't go past their little letterbox, let alone us going camping, fishing, all of that. So we're very outdoor.
Sure.
So they're just some of the restrictions we have, what the US can do versus what Australia can do.
Yeah, so it's all about volume at the end of the day.
It is. It's all about
volume. You've got to make your money.
And across every brand and every tool in our industry, we see this all the time. Like Australians, we get deprived of certain things just because the volumes are just not there.
Yeah.
So we know that the zero turn that's been leaked. We know that is coming eventually. Is that something that's out in the US right now?
Certainly is.
Okay.
So if we look at what goes on in the US today, our range is not that far off the US.
No.
So, but when we first launched our Generation 1 and Generation 2 mowers over in the US, and let's give them some credit about how they look after their lawns.
Yeah.
They know not to scalp it, shave it, right? And they're cutting at minimum of 35, 40 mil.
Yeah.
And they know how to look after their lawn. Over here, we want to scalp it.
Yeah.
So we had to make modification to the US models to then bring it into Australia to meet Australian expectations and conditions. So, but the zero turn is one of those that we've actually had to do. So yes, it's launched in the US. It launched earlier this year.
Okay.
We're not far off here in Oz. There's not a lot I can share about it.
That's
because
okay.
We're in strategy mode, and marketing mode. But it's coming, and it'll be here before you know it.
It's good to know that you've taken into consideration that we are a completely different style of mowing. Because,
Absolutely.
You see a lot of things come across, and they just don't do what they need to do over here. But they work perfectly for the American market. So.
Yeah, I mean, and we've talked about it on previous episodes, and I know that this is an ego-driven episode, but, similar with your testing with some of the Skag units.
Yeah.
The markets are just different. We just are mowing in, different grass types, different, we've got, wet and dry everywhere. We've got sand, we've got, and so... and obviously the levels, that's one of the biggest things.
That's one of the biggest things.
So it's great that, so the Aussie team, you guys will get a product in and really review it for the Australian market and then go back. Do you get to go back to, manufacturing and say, look, I think we need this change, we need this change? Is that the sort of input that you guys have?
I think that's where we probably need to talk about Shervon globally.
Sure.
So Shervon Trading in Nanjing, China is our parent company. That's where we have full vertical integration. Now, they manufacture on a global scale, but each region can put in their wish list for product specs based on their market. Now, believe it or not, our market is very similar to Europe. So when we go to our R&D in Shervon Nanjing, generally we get together with Europe and we talk about product, we talk about specs, and that's the economies of scale. It's nice to ride the coattail of the US because their volume in terms of production. But if there's modifications, then that's where it comes into it. But yes, we have a product manager here, we have a marketing manager, and we're forever researching the market and talking to individuals about what are the expectations in the market, what are the needs. No point us bringing in a product if it doesn't meet your need or your market application. It's just going to sit there collecting dust.
Makes perfect sense to me. We did the same sort of thing with Skag. Now we've got like massive amounts of input. Now they're bringing out a 42-inch Liberty, which is, everybody wants a 42 over here.
I think it took them like 10 years to get the go-ahead for a 42. And like in America, like a lot of these manufacturing companies are based in America, they don't have a need for a 42-inch. They have 48s. And then they will, if they, like their gated access was like 36. The 36 is still is even too big here. And so I think 42 has been the most popular deck size for 10 years.
That's really good.
Well, that's what we're launching with, right?
Oh,
yeah, well, it's a no-brainer. Right. Yeah. Look, I do think that, especially, like, this is just me freestyling off the top of my head. I think, for a battery ride-on mower, I think, fair enough. If it's 42, it's 42. But I reckon if you can get that down around 34
and a stander.
Look, no, and everyone knows I love stand-on mowers, but a 34 deck is a way that you can accomplish a compact unit for these gated areas. Now, for example, at our village, we are using all battery equipment now, and the only petrol units that we run is the 32 and a push mower, and the push mower doesn't get a ton of use. Right. So, if you could get a battery unit that was small enough to get into all of the areas, I mean, the amount of, like, you could work at any time of the day. These oldies can be, reading their bloody book or doing whatever they're doing. Instead of getting mad at us, we're just... Yep. So, look, I think companies, whether it's you or anyone else, they'll get there eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, it will happen.
The way the block size, I don't know how, we've got so much land here in Australia, but our block size is just getting so ridiculous. You see guys having to turn their 216 on the side and push it past a water tank.
I've seen that. Yeah,
makes me sick.
It's crazy.
So when we launched Ego back in 2014, we actually did a brand study and we did some research on what the market needs were when it came to battery. the average size back then, the average lawn size was only 450 square. So, and they're getting smaller. So we do a brand study every year to understand what is happening in the market, and that size is becoming smaller. I mean, you just see roof lights starting to touch, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's why we've now brought out a 42 and a 47 centimetre, is because access now to backyards is getting harder. Sometimes they're upstairs, sometimes they're through narrow doors, etc. So we're trying to cater for that type of market as well.
And depending on what, let's just look at the Ego push mower range, or whether self-propelled, whatever it is that you're looking at.
Yep.
But some of these units you could just pick up and put over your shoulder, right?
Absolutely.
Now I can't do that, but someone like BJ, he could just be, I'll just take this.
I'm not walking the 30 inch skag up any stairs, that's for sure.
I can't even walk it anywhere on the flat.
Well, even now.
Well, how much does it weigh?
I think it's
more than me.
90 something.
Yeah, more than me.
Yeah,
more than me.
Right. Well, our new 52 centimetre select cut, I mean, that weighs 25 kilo without the battery, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So it's.
And are they all like? Do they have aluminium chassis and those ones, or yep?
Yeah. So no. So you're
talking
the deck.
Take us through. Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Okay. So the deck we've got in the 52 centimetre range, we've got it's what we call a composite poly. So I mean, but it's not just that composite poly. It's the construction around it. It's completely reinforced. So in a 50 centimetre, we still have the steel deck.
Yeah.
Now we did bring in a steel deck push and a steel deck self-propelled. The push wasn't selling because everyone was going to the poly because they wanted something lightweight. They wanted something they could pick up without any fuel storage to actually take it through our house as well, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So the steel self-propelled though, and I know many in the group have got it. It's old school. It's because it's steel. But still, if you dent it, it can rust, all of the above.
Yeah.
And that's where composite poly, yes, okay, you can damage it, but it's still durable.
Oh, it's super durable.
Well, the way that we demonstrate, we generally, on demonstrations, we've got hard, steel caps, and we'll kick the shit out of it.
Yeah.
It's
Can we do that one day?
Yeah, absolutely.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah.
Once we finally destroy it, if we can, we'll hang it on the wall.
Now, if anyone just wants to have a quick look, this just spurred up a memory. If anyone wants to have a look at Stan Dirt Monkeys, he did a video with. He's done a few with Ego.
Yeah.
What first caught my attention was. Now, this is going back a couple of years. I did my own demo and showed some videos.
Right.
And when I was preparing for some of that. Or it might have even been after, I was looking at one of his first demos, and just what caught my attention, he was just like dunking the batteries in like this big bucket of water, and I think he actually had a hose. We don't have anything to show, but where like the little fans are on the machines and stuff, he's just pouring it in there and running the machines. And then I remember thinking like, oh man, I could have done so much more cool stuff with this. But that, if anyone wants to go back and have a look at Stanley Dirt, what's the channel called?
It's Dirt Monkey.
Yeah, just Dirt Monkey. Yeah. But he also did the ZTR. And he bashes that thing.
He puts it through some.
I mean, what he did was brutal.
Yeah.
And what we got to bear in mind is that this first generation of 42-inch ZTR, it is a domestic model.
Yeah.
Now you've seen what Dirt Monkey did, right?
Yeah.
It was he bashed that through.
Yeah. Oh, and just not even just the grass. Like he's just smashing it over logs
at
and just
speed too, right?
Yeah, doing all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can check that out.
That's awesome.
Funny you should bring up the water. So our first generation and all of our products are IPX4 rated, which is basically splash proof.
Yeah.
So if you're out in the rain, no issues. And I'm going to point that out even on the battery, why our batteries are
definitely talk us all through it. Yes.
Absolutely. But what we did on our first generation is we put all our tools operating under a sprinkler. And because our first generation blower, the inlet was actually underneath. It was actually drawing up the water and spitting it out through the spouts.
I think that's what I was what I might have been watching. It's been a while now, but I do remember that he was blowing water out from inside the machine.
Well, we kept those products, and 12 months later, they were still operating.
Yeah. So officially now, has that technology been upgraded? Are they still just splash proof? Are they waterproof? Is there an actual spec that they have to be, or is that something that a company looks at and say, okay, this is what we can do, or this is what we want to do? What's the...
So all our products are IPX4. So as I said, that's more splash proof. Then you've got IP56, 56, which is completely waterproof. So our commercial backpack, that backpack battery that we released in 2019, that's fully submersible. So you know, so cool. We've actually got videos of this being completely submersed in water, operating tools.
Is there one of those in this bag?
No, unfortunately, I couldn't fit, mate. And I'm only allowed 140 watt hours on the plane. So fair enough. Now, and that's 1568.
Now, from a contractor or consumer's point of view, it's not like you make this at that spec so that you can just heave it into your pool or a creek or something. It's more like, let's just think of... Yeah, of course you could, BJ, yes. But let's just think of a scenario like, let's say you're trimming a hedge next to a pool, you got that backpack on.
Absolutely.
Something happens.
Yep.
Craig Burrows. Hey, well, have you done it too?
Yeah, 230.
Craig Burrows sent me a photo of him dead set in the pool with a hedge trimmer.
Yep, 8 degrees.
Not an ego or anything. No. So, yeah, but... yeah, you know, and then because hey, that can really cost someone, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, I mean, originally it was designed more for the European market, because the municipalities over there at the moment, they're all jumping on board when it comes to battery
because of their miserable weather, right?
Absolutely. I mean, absolutely, but they're working in the rain all the time. But not only that, they're also working around lakes and etc. So,
is that why you guys are based in Melbourne? Because you have some shit weather down there. Stuff's all
we don't have the best of weather. I am enjoying this at the moment. It's good to have a bit of heat.
Yeah.
But so I mean, it had to be waterproof. It had to have a commercial rating to it, and that's our first generation. So you know, what we've got coming up, second and third generation. You know, there's a lot of commercial focus for our brand going forward.
I mean, I can vouch. I've got my Ego battery. This is the only tool that I probably can't see it on the set, but that's the rest of our stuff is on site. And I've accidentally left that out in like a typical Queensland storm before,
right?
And she's as good as gold.
Yep.
So
I've just got myself a little hedger. And that's a 65 centimetre.
You haven't got that thing bloody wet already, have you?
So first day. We've had that shit weather that I've had rain. Melbourne out about.
I'm surprised he wasn't swimming in the streets with it.
Yeah. You know. Check that out on the Skull Sessions page. Was that posted on your page as well?
Yeah, a bit of everything. TBL, Skull Sessions, Instagram.
I think he kept his clothes on this occasion too.
Yeah, I did. It's one of my biggest jobs. It still didn't stop me getting down on my knees though.
Right. Let us know if you want to see a nude version of that.
Oh, he had to prevent that road rash too.
I don't know how much longer will be my cameraman if I start taking my kit off.
Oh, I tell you what, that is something. I mean, that was one of the most. This is sidebar, by the way, but the comments was everyone was just so sympathetic to Will, who is his worker. Who you know, you can imagine the conversation like, hey Will, it's raining. I'm gonna get down. I'm gonna do a dance. Can you please film this for my social media?
This is legit how it happened. Started raining. Will's like, "Oh, it's raining, dude." I like stood up from behind the car. I said, "Film me," and he goes, "What are we gonna do this time?" He loves it. He's 21, so he's like all about TikTok, all the TikToks and stuff.
Probably doing it himself.
Kids these
days. He's very social media shy, but yeah, he's good. He's a good cameraman.
Yeah, no, he does have skills. Okay, cool. So, in terms of products, say between now, we're going to get to some of the technology and some of that stuff, like some of that really interesting stuff. But if we just sort of break down some of the tools, like what are the biggest differences between a domestic tool and a commercial tool?
Sure, absolutely. Well, I guess from a domestic, the basis behind it is just the overall construction and what's in it, right?
Okay, so it's not just power.
It's not just power. Because we're consistent in terms of what we offer in terms of battery. When it comes to runtime, then amp power increases. And of course, with commercial guys, they want to run all day, every day.
Yeah. Now, I don't mean to cut you off. I just wanted to try and set the stage that sometimes contractors or consumers, they see something domestic, they see something commercial, and they think, okay, this commercial one obviously just has more power, but everything, usually everything goes into it from like you said, the construction to the types of switches,
You betcha.
all of those components.
It's an increase in quality.
Yeah.
Because we know that this tool is going to be used all day, every day. It's not going to be used on a weekly basis or a fortnightly basis for a period of 4 or 5 months when the sun comes out and the grass grows. You guys are working all day, every day, 365 days of the year. So we need to make sure that we're driving quality behind it, better construction, greater specs, internals, externals, even the line trimmer you guys have been working on late. You know, that's got the carbon fiber shaft because we know you guys are on it all day. So, you know, it's going to get heavier over time. But that carbon fiber shaft takes a lot of weight out of it.
It is really nice. And
it's durable.
Yeah.
So you guys, look, let's be truthful here. When it comes to trade and commercial, we can sometimes abuse our tools. That carbon fiber is going to have more durability than an aluminium or a steel shaft.
Yeah,
absolutely.
We've seen a few bent snips on the LMCA page.
I've seen that just recently.
It's amazing. Like
I've never come close to running over a bipper.
I ran over, mate. I've run over a blower. I've run over a hand years and years and years ago. Just cracked the casing. But yeah, I mean, I've seen guys. They've accidentally driven over their straight shaft, and it's just got like almost a perfect. Hey, look at me bent shaft.
But no, that snipper is awesome. I love using it, and so does Will, but he never gets to use it, so I take it away.
Well, that's the same. I was telling you privately over the phone that we have that out at our village, and DJ is my worker out there, and we also Rusty and myself. I only go out there once a week. Rusty works out there 2 days a week. Now, Rusty is one of my workers who's been with me for a long time. Everyone can recognise him from our YouTube videos. But he's one of those really critical dudes, and he loves how things, like he loves to know how things work or why a company has done this and why a company's done that. And you could just see him, he like picked up this thing and he's just, you know, looking at everything and getting the feel for it. Now, whoever gets to work first on those days gets that too.
Is that right?
And it's crazy. Like, as soon as DJ puts it down, it barely even touches the concrete before Rusty's got this thing. Right? And absolutely, absolutely, yeah. So that's been really good. So I barely get to use it.
Is that right? Look, the other thing is too on commercial versus our domestic range is we're offering a 2-year commercial warranty. So once again, that's to make sure that it does have that longevity in the market for that continuous use, whereas we only have a 12-month commercial warranty on our domestic.
Okay, yeah, because it's important to note that if it's one thing to say it's commercial, but then to stand behind it and warrant it for that period of time, that's something else entirely, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And the other difference is when we talk about the batteries, IP56 versus 4, there's a significant investment to making sure that that's completely waterproof when it comes to sealing, the resin that goes in behind it to protect all the electronics, you know, just the workmanship that's behind it, you know, it's of a higher quality.
So are the batteries a different spec as well? Is there a domestic and a commercial battery?
No. So
okay, cool.
Individual batteries. You know, they are what they are, but the backpack commercial battery, that is true commercial.
And what's the runtime on that for a whipper snipper?
Yep, so up to 7 hours.
7
up
hours.
to 5 hours on the blower. The blower does have a variable speed, so like any blower, if you're going to go full turbo, you're going to reduce your runtime significantly. So there's a skill behind using a blower and making sure that you use it to blow debris, but then you go that full power for stubborn debris.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So,
and I just want to add that fuck anyone's life being on a brush cutter for 7 hours.
Well,
but you can do it now.
Yeah. That's trigger use. So you know, if you've got a petrol, you put that down, and if that thing's still running, that's still sucking juice.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
When you put a battery down, that stops.
Yeah.
It's not sucking any more juice. So that's trigger time.
Yeah, I run a few hours on my trimmers from now and again, but yeah, I haven't done 7 hours for a long time. That's something like Kyle.
I haven't. Yeah,
down on the hills with Ian.
I've definitely. I mean, I've paid my dues.
Yeah.
I've done that, and I wouldn't be able to do it anymore anyway.
Don't sell yourself short. You can do it.
No, I can't fucking do it. I don't want to do it.
I believe in you, Ben.
I don't want to do it. So
Dad believes in you, mate. You just have to believe in yourself.
Right. With the whippersnipper line, I'm just talking about the line up. Is the what's that thing called on the domestic one that winds the cord in? Yep. What's that called?
So that's called power load.
Yes. So is there a reason why this is not on the commercial, or is it now?
Because so in the commercial market, you guys are doing it all day, every day.
Yes.
You know what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
But one of the biggest pain points in the domestic market is, how do I wind my line? Now, we've got hundreds of how-to videos, and the one that sits up the very top by a long way is, how do I wind my line?
Yeah.
Right? So we've taken all that complexity out of it. You thread it through the trimmer head, you press the button, and away you go. Now that
is fucking fantastic.
It is huge. It takes.
I've never used it. Did you use it on when you demo?
On the original demo.
Yeah.
And when Ian was showing us, I remember like sitting there going like I didn't believe it. Like I was just like, holy moly. And then he sort of said to me like, it's just on this model. Yeah. I was just like, man, I feel like I wanted to steal that and like come up with something.
Well,
it was. Is really
here's
cool.
Me winding my Tanaka head.
Yeah. Have you converted to speed feeds now?
I do have a speed feed on the Ego. Yeah. Yeah, I like it.
Do you have a GA or do you have a rapid reload?
I got a rapid reload.
Okay, cool. That's my head, by the way.
Right.
Yeah, nice. They're in the background there.
Right. Oh, there's one there. Where can you get them, Ben?
Catchpro.com.au. No, but look, that feature, that is really cool.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's been one of our objectives as a new brand in the market, right? Is to provide solutions to the challenges that, whether it be a domestic or a commercial individual faces, right? Most domestic had to look it up, and it would take them a minute and a half to thread it on correctly.
Yes.
This takes all of 10 seconds, right?
Did that reduce the line capacity at all?
We're still got a 5 meter line on the 38 centimetre. We've just released a 35 centimetre as well, so now we've got 2 power load heads out there.
Cool.
The second one that we've just launched out has actually got an extendable shaft as well, so depending on whether you're tall or not, then you can adjust that depending on your height. So.
Nice.
Wow.
That's pretty cool.
Don't cut us out of the Darwin grip game.
This is domestic stuff, right? I wouldn't be recommending the 35 or the 38, but I know a lot in the group are using the power load, and a lot of them have sworn by it. It's a ripper machine. It's got a lot of power. It's got a lot of runtime for what it is, but it is a domestic unit.
So the only thing that I remember about, like obviously I remember that feature about this domestic unit, but doesn't the head spin the other way?
Yes.
That messed with me.
Okay, so domestic. So this was
something it happens over all lines.
Yeah, so domestic, it's clockwise.
Yeah.
We were the first region behind the Ego brand to go back to R&D and say, the Aussies in commercial want anti-clockwise.
Yeah.
So guess what? We produced one within 3 months. So from the very start of reporting that to actually getting it into the market.
Oh, thank goodness, because
I'd be taking out some windows if I was going backwards.
I don't know what it is.
Well, we have a new rotor cut for that, mate. That stops all of that.
Yeah, true.
I just personally, like I am very stubborn when it comes to stuff like this. And look, one of the biggest things that I know, and we've spoken about this on our battery episode, you can go back in the archives and have a look at that episode. But when you're looking at a contractor that is trying to dip their toes in this game, one of the biggest things that needs to happen is it needs to be comparable. It needs to be, it's going to be different, but it needs to have some of the same qualities of what they have been using for years and years on end, because once you start messing with that, people can't do the same job that they could before. But I tell you, it was funny when I was trying to use it. I was like, it just took me like a second. I was like, what's going on here? Yeah. And then I ended up giving it to Rusty, and I was like, how are you going with this? And he really soldiered through it. It became a non-factor for him. But for me at the time, because we were messing with the hedges and everything like that, I kind of just let him play with it. But is there no other reason why, like, it's just, like, initially when you went and said, oh no, the commercial guys, they needed to spin this way, was there a reason why it wasn't like, well, fuck it, let's just change the domestic one too. It's like, no, that's going to be the difference.
Well, I guess you'll find that most domestics are going clockwise anyway.
Yeah,
so
okay.
It was a key learning for our business that commercial wanted anti-clockwise. Then we started shipping that into Europe as well.
Oh,
okay. Yes.
So it became a learning because once again, we in our first 2 to 3 years, we were domestic only until 2019 when we started focusing more on the commercial market. So obviously the line trimmer that you boys are using, that's clockwise. Our multi-tool, whilst that is a domestic product, that's mainly bought by commercial, but that is anti-clockwise. So we're catering more and more for that need because we know from a commercial standpoint, sometimes it's about affordability. Sometimes affordability is not, a real concern.
Yeah.
It's more about the spec.
Yeah, and I think once people have decided to go battery, I think affordability really shouldn't come into it. Like if you're going to take all your tools and do a big swap, I think like you got to throw money at it, or you're going to come up short on batteries and things like that.
Well, we weren't going to get there just yet, but now that you've brought that up, when it's one of the biggest things that I see is everyone's like, it's too much to invest with the batteries and the chargers and the this and the that. Mm-hmm. But really, do you know the saving? I mean, it's difficult to gauge.
Especially with the fluctuation in fuel prices and things like that.
Yeah, but I mean, for example, like I know that since we converted, now Greenscape Solutions is not, any number one, any of our audience listening they do tons more work than us these days. Yeah. But we still operate. Like I know personally on my own rig, I've filled up my like 2-stroke cans like 3 times in like a year. That's just to run the backpack blower. We still keep the petrol backpack blowers, but all the other handhelds, like we don't pull cords for any of that stuff anymore. Mm-hmm. Do you have any indication of what typical savings would be?
Yep.
Right now?
Yep. So here's an example.
This is great.
To run a battery mower over a month costs the same than a 2-stroke mower in one day based on 3 litres.
Wow.
In that day. Now, the other thing you've got to take into consideration is that there's no maintenance to a battery, right?
Yeah. And
there's no spark plug, there's no oil change, there's no downtime in that productivity as well.
Yeah, like I'm not trying to be rude by cutting you off, but everyone needs to like I saw a post, I think it was on LMCA, they might have been new to the Ego line, and they were talking about some savings, and they had somehow calculated how much it fucking cost to charge a battery and everything like that. Yeah. One thing that they missed, although they touched on it a little bit, was this maintenance and repairs.
Yeah.
But they only just breezed over it. Now, BJ, how much time do you spend? Because I know every day, when I had 4 operators, this bench right here, I had the machine every day at 4 o'clock. And me and Rusty would be running these bench testing these machines up until 6:30 at night.
Yep.
Because we're cleaning plugs, spraying out carbies, like all of this stuff. It's a real...
I'm not having the same issues I used to have because most of my problem with is hedges and snippers. And now that I still have petrol snippers, but they don't get as much time.
No, but what I mean is like that maintenance factor,
non-billable hours.
It's not just a spark plug every once in a while or an air filter once in a while. It's all the time.
Yeah, well, you got to clean your filter. There's no air filters on a battery.
Absolutely
machine,
not.
So
but if you have a look at some of
to bother about,
no,
there's nothing.
Yeah. Well, if you look at a lot of these major brands in petrol on their own websites, they talk about that maintenance every 50 hours.
Yeah.
Right. So depending on your day, that's going to be 2 or 3 times a week, right?
Well, that's it. Like even the zero turns, like I'll take the blades off, I'll change the oil and things like that. Like I can spend half a day outside just doing things with the machines, and
I mean, the zero turns for me is nowhere near as much. Like the handhelds, once you...
I actually enjoy doing the zero turn stuff. I fucking handhelds do my head in.
Right.
No, the whippersnippers, like... I'm telling you now, like, and now these days with emissions and everything, you've got and the carburetors, you cannot, the adjustments, they're not there anymore.
Yeah.
They're internal. You used to be able to turn a little screw to, you know, do the oil and air mixture, everything like that. Now, it's just, and as a society, you know, whether you're in the domestic market or the commercial market, how much easier is it to just put a battery in a charger and just
walk away,
forget about that?
Walk away, go and have a beer, go and spend some time with the family.
Yeah.
But outside of the running costs and the maintenance, then you've got the health side of it, right?
Yeah.
So we've already spoken about the minimal vibration in battery versus that of petrol, but then there's also the emission side of it, the health side of it.
Great point.
So there's that portion of it. And then there's also the weight factor as well.
Actually, Shory on Shory's episode mentioned hedging inside of a little courtyard, and he's just like...
Did you listen to that episode where we had the landscaper on?
No, I didn't.
No, that's okay,
Yeah, he's like talking about hedging inside of a small
like
courtyard.
Like a mazed hedge.
Yeah, with the engine just blasting.
Like the two-stroke oil, you know?
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, years and years and years ago, when I actually worked for wages at a retirement village, they used to, the old fogies there, because I worked with much older people at that time, they used to mix the two-stroke twice the strength, so that, and because there was no pole hedges back then, it was all hand hedges.
Yeah.
So when you had the wasp nests, you could smoke them out with the exhaust. No joke.
You'd be smoking yourself.
Mate, I'm telling you now, that was what they used to actually do.
Are you serious?
And all the engines would be
How's the lungs?
smoking. But with everything else going on. So definitely the health stuff. I've talked about it before. I reckon I've had like some sort of petrol poisoning a few times. On a really, really, really hot Queensland day, you accidentally get a little bit on you. Whether you have a drink or you eat some food or have a cigarette afterwards, you know, you're then inhaling it or consuming it somehow. I had all of those issues.
I remember something that I've actually loved about switching to battery is I don't get those burn holes in my shirts anymore.
I've seen a couple of two where they
I'd get it out with a pole hedger and I'd shove it right in and I'd be like, yeah, I'm getting the top of this hedge on the top of a ladder, and then you're like, I'm fucking on fire. And then you look down and just your shirt's melting. I'm
actually, it's one thing, the telescopic ego one that we have, it's got a little friendship handle there.
Yeah.
So when you want to, you know, you can actually support that. Yeah, and I guess there's some of the features that you can do when you don't have a motor in the way.
Yeah. But let's also talk about that extended productivity too by having battery over petrol, and that is that we are finding there's a lot of market restrictions coming into it, and especially around the villages, the nursing, because noise pollution. A big one at the moment is golf courses. They're not allowing petrol now around clubhouses and around the holes where there is residential living because of that noise pollution. Schools, once upon a time, it's 8:30 a.m, tools down. You've got to start early to get the job done. And we spoke about where we sold 600 backpack blowers in New South Wales to a group that cleaned schools.
Yeah.
So they're now able to work throughout the day rather than 8:30 a.m, tools down. The other big one too is cemeteries. So they've got to maintain cemeteries now, you know, whilst there is, you know...
dead people.
Whilst like there's a funeral's going on, the last thing they want to hear is a screaming line trimmer.
Yeah, no, I thought you actually meant... I thought you were going to say more for visitors that were grieving or something. But yeah, you're right. Obviously in actual, you know, in a funeral. Yeah. I mean, look, no matter which way you choose to weigh it up, the noise pollution there is no negative downside. Like at our village, now I've talked about Rusty being very particular. It almost looks like the hedges are laser cut when he does them, and he does them better than anyone that, you know, that I really know. And the manager, I'm just telling, hey, I'm going to give him his props, all right?
I'll admit,
he does these beautiful hedges, right? Now, the manager was a South African, and the only reason why I say that is because his accent was funny.
Right.
And when he would, I'm not gonna try and copy the accent, but
should give it a go.
Yeah, I know. He just never thinks much of himself, does he?
I think I can only say one word, and it's banana. That's how it comes out, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or core pork. Anyway, he used to come out and go psycho because in the community centre, all the residents, you know, they'd be doing bowls or fucking puzzles, whatever it is that they're doing. And here's Rusty with a petrol unit, you know, a million times over this hedge. He would come out and he'd say, the hedge is trimmed, mate. Stop trimming it. But now, with the battery tools, he can cut sick for as long as he wants, and it doesn't bother anyone.
Yeah, it's not disturbing anyone. Right?
Absolutely not. Yeah. So, you know, like I said, that noise pollution, I don't think there is any negative downside.
No, great.
With negative downsides to any other, like what would you say would be a negative downside? Would you say it would be the run times? Now, I know you have solutions for all of this, but sometimes there are things that are just, sometimes things just how they are.
Yeah, absolutely. Look,
and I'm not trying to draw out a negative response. It's just,
Look, I think, you know, we've got to be constructive in what we're telling the audience, and that is that our focus on commercial is to meet the commercial needs and application, and that is to have that run time all day. So we offer that. Yep. Okay, with the backpack, running a line trim up to 7 hours will blow up to 5 hours. But if you want to dive into the domestic area with our handheld, well, we've got the largest capacity in the market with our batteries being a 10 amp 56 volt, that's 560 watt hours, and we'll talk more about that throughout today. But we're about to bring out a bigger capacity. So the more batteries you have, the more continuous runtime.
Yeah.
Because the runtime of a battery versus that of the charge time, in a lot of cases, you can actually charge a battery up sooner than you can actually run the battery down on trigger time.
Yeah, nice.
All right. So, and this is where you'll see, you know, through some posts that a lot of the guys now, you're right. I guess affordability is not an issue because they're investing in 10 to 20 batteries to not only get them through the day, but then to make sure that they've got continuous use depending on the application.
And I think if you can hit, like I know, like what's a tank on a whippersnipper these days? Like 45 maybe to an hour runtime. So if you can achieve that off, you know, you're not quite there on a 5 amp. 45 minute.
Yeah, absolutely. So if we talk our power load, you can get up to 35 on a 2.5. So you're going to get well over that, up to 50 on a 5 amp hour as well.
Okay, yeah.
But on our domestic product, we only, in our kit form, we only include a 2.5.
Yeah.
But with our, what we believe is better suited to the commercial market, we won't put anything in there but a minimum of 5 amp hour.
Yeah, sure.
So then that brings on that extended runtime.
Yes.
And then, of course, if you've got multiple batteries, then you've got continuous runtime as well.
Because when I was in charge of my guys in Greenscape Solutions, when I work on site with them, we typically did a lot of hedge trimming, and the petrol hedge trimmers will pretty much use the same amount of fuel as a whippersnipper.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah, pretty much.
But battery, you're getting an extra hour at least out of the same equivalent battery. But my rule has always been, when I run out, like I would start the hedges with the boys. When I run out of fuel, I'm going back to fill up. You have a drink break, you can have a cigarette, and we get back into it.
Yep.
Now all of a sudden with the battery hedge trimmers, you know, the boys are saying can we have a drink break before then? Because they're going like to at least 2 hours. Yeah. So and I know myself, when I'm, not that I do it that much anymore, but I just put the thing down after a while and go and take my drink break. But I mean, it's all with the battery run times and everything. It's all progressing forward, right?
Absolutely.
We're absolutely nowhere near the sky really is the limit in terms of this stuff.
Yeah, look, I guess the chemistry behind batteries has come a long way, and especially in power tools, right? NiCad used to be the proven performer, but it hated heat.
Yeah.
Now, lithium ion doesn't like heat either, but it's a little bit more receptive to it. So lithium ion has become a better proven performer in application. It'll last a lot longer. So But the capacity behind the batteries, and that's where 56 volt we feel is the optimum for outdoor power equipment, is because we're able to increase the capacity for that longer run time.
Yeah, nice.
But then it gets heavier. But then, of course, we then cater for that weight, whether it be a simple harness or the backpack length. Right now, I think you've got a video of using a backpack length. Yeah, you can put a 4 kilo battery on your back.
I don't notice it. A lot of people. That's one of the main comments that when I posted some videos the other day of me with the backpack on, and people were like, "Oh, I couldn't fucking handle the backpack." I honestly don't. Once it's on, I don't even think about it. Like it's a really well weighted vest, and it clicks up like, you know, even though I'm a busty guy, it clicks up perfectly.
Do you click it up or do you run it like a Rebel?
No, I click it up. I click it up because it like...
You should see...
You leave it around the waist though, right?
I fucking you still do that.
You should see Rusty. It looks like he's strapping up for fucking war when he's getting ready to...
Yeah, but he's got all the pocket. He's got pockets.
Oh, he's got jigs everywhere all over him. But me, I don't know, like I don't like to be restricted, and I run it just... I don't think I've ever clicked it up.
Yeah, but see, it doesn't restrict you.
Like, right?
You knock it up and it just brings it closer to your back, and it just feels like it's nothing.
Yeah, so we will get into the batteries very shortly, but quickly while we're on the backpack, I do think that it's not like I'm the same as you. I think the backpack is like certainly once you spend an hour on it, it doesn't, you know, once you start doing, I'd say the only actual downside to it is one thing that I've found is that when you it depends, you know, if you're just getting out and doing a residential lawn, maybe this doesn't happen that often, but at the village, you know, we got people coming up to us, everything like that, and if you want to put the machine down, sometimes you're restricted by the leash.
Sure.
It's just part of, you know, the sacrifice that we have to have to get that runtime. Yeah. But apart from that, it's pretty good, hey, you know, like you just 100%. It's not really restrictive.
And it's not hot. It seems like it's not like a wide backpack. It's kind of cuts in and it's like I don't know if it's a wishbone shape, or it's not like it's across your whole back.
Yeah.
I find it quite comfortable, and it doesn't overheat me or anything, and we've just had some of the shittest weather.
So you being a bigger guy, you can definitely vouch.
What are you saying?
No, I'm just, hey, don't be like that. Hey, I thought you were cool.
Yeah, no, I'm cool.
No, just I saw the same comments.
Yeah.
And people were like, oh, look, you know, I really just, you know, don't think I could handle having that. But really, like, and you have to be honest that you were a little skeptical when you first looked at it. You were kind of like, am I going to be able to get into this thing?
So you got yours back. I wasn't going to get a battery snipper yet, but as soon as I saw yours...
Yeah, see, I made him put him put mine on.
He brought it to me.
Yeah, I brought it out.
Cooked on bloody endo. And he's,
hey, don't tell him that.
Had his back.
It hurt me back.
He hurt his back, and he come out and he's like, well, you got to try this. And I'm like, I'm smashing through it, and then he's like just having a chat, and I'm like, well, I've got to get back to work, man. He's like...
And I'm just sitting here, cool hand Luke, like, nah, just let me get some film and let me just... I just want to see you use it.
No, I really enjoy it.
So how do you find the line trimmer? Because obviously we're taking the weight off the unit, right? So how do you find the line trimmer in terms of weight? And I watched that video. You're throwing that thing around like the Excalibur, right?
Yeah. I get a little bit cheeky when I've got my petrol. Like, I like to throw it around like I'm some sort of...
we do the same thing. Do you do the little knee pump when you come up into...
Yeah, I do all the little flips and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But, I find it wasn't there was no transition period. Like, it's got heaps of torque. Like, it cuts really nice, plenty of speed. Like, the head speed, I was like... being battery, you know, what's going on here? But it's like, and I'm like, oh shit! And I've got to kind of go a bit faster with it because it's like really, like it's got plenty of power. You could even dull that down a little bit.
And I don't know what the decibel like. It's a very quiet machine.
Yeah,
it is very quiet. Like, and it's even quiet compared to other battery whippersnipper brands.
Well. Okay, so here's a test for you. Take the line out and then hear how quiet it is.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
I used the last bit of line, and it popped out at my last job today, and it was just like...
So it's the line that actually makes the noise.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So...
Yeah, and I haven't So lots of people reach out to me straight away, and a lot of guys using the domestic unit were saying, "Oh, I don't get as much line length as I'd like," and I'm like, "Well, you got to look at your line. It's
domestic.
Yeah, it's domestic, and you got to look at your line." And I haven't found any problems. So I've got 2.7 on. I used to run 3.3, but so I was having issues with my carbies in some of my snippers. Because it was like I don't run guards on any of my stuff.
Right. Yeah, so we can yeah, but
yeah,
I mean,
but it's one of those things. Like I downgraded my line because I was hurting my carbies and my petrol, and the Ego just eats it up. Like it just says it's a perfect fit. 2.7 on that head is just
well, that was one of the biggest things as well. When you said because he always uses the old school the Tanaka style heads. And I said, if you're going to get this thing, why don't you... So that's the Ego trimmer. I said, why don't you just bung one of my heads on? I got one here. You are going to have to sacrifice your 3.3 line because they don't... Yep. You can only wind so much in there. I actually use 2.4 in mine. I don't know what my guys are using, but... because I'm not doing, hours and hours on end, and a lot, usually if I'm jumping on a tool, it's reasonable work. Mm-hmm. I actually really love it with the 2.4 because it just cuts like a really nice edge.
And it's not as limiting.
It's not as limiting as well. So what we were getting at is if you are removing your guards, which we're not going to recommend.
We certainly don't.
We got in trouble. We got in trouble because. We wanted to share some of our footage with you guys on Instagram, and he's straight up like, no, we can't do that. We can't endorse that.
Yeah. Oh, look, we're happy to put a disclaimer on it that we don't endorse it, but
Bazz does not. But he does not recommend it.
Is that the same
as reality, right? It's what you guys do in the market.
Yeah, it is.
And we had a whole bloody session on it, like trimmer guards on or off, and it's a 50-50 world. There's some.
Yeah, it is.
And there's not a lot of information out there on whether it's...
My only advice would ever be is, I know Australian standards are different, than some other markets, but because people reached out to us after that episode and they said they wanted me to design a carbon fibre aftermarket guard.
Right.
Something that didn't impair the vision. Something that was very light. One thing, the weight of a guard has never bothered me.
Yeah.
It's the restrictions.
It's the line of sight.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. And so that was just some of the feedback that we had gotten. Mm-hmm. But anyway, let's move on. So can we just talk a little bit about the batteries? What makes Ego unique? And is there any, is there anything that we can teach the public about this?
Yeah, look, I think let's talk about battery and the history of battery, and that is really in the OPE market. When we launched in 2014, there was really only one, commercial brand that was out there, and there was only two other domestics. So,
what brands are they? Can we name them?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, well, look, there was still high-end 36 volt, and then of course you got some DIY brands that were available in Bunnings at the time.
Yeah, because this is 2014.
Well, it was almost non-existent.
No, but I'm just talking just relative to my own experiences. Yep. I don't even think I got amongst it it would have been when I did my original Ego demos. That's probably 2018 or 2019 now.
I was looking at those videos back then.
Yeah.
You're looking pretty young back then too, mate.
I
can share those with you if you want.
I had a grey beard then.
You did actually.
Yeah, but what I mean is that Ego had been around for 4 or 5 years plus before then.
That's right.
And it's come a long way since then.
Incredibly so. So what we've seen since 2014 and in the first couple of years is that there were some brands that started coming into it, like more into that commercial market, that were known for petrol. So you've got the petrol experts heading into battery, then you've got the power tool experts heading into battery. Now, we were the first brand to offer a voltage outside of 36 volt and being 56 volt. Then we were the first brand to offer a lot of different products in the market. So we had 3 self-propels in the market before any other brand brought it in. We were the first to introduce a multi-tool range of cordless as well. But it's all about the battery, right? So now with battery, there's 3 modes we've got to talk about. There is pre-application, there's during application, and then there's post-application. So let's talk about pre-application. And pre-application is that it's got to be in the right storage and the right transportation mode.
Yep.
So we've seen some posts about, I guess, the myth of the red ring of death.
Yes.
All right.
And
Now,
that originates from the Xbox 360, doesn't it?
Oh, does it?
Oh, you're a Sony guy.
Yeah,
eh?
I'm a Sony guy.
I had the Xbox. So when, so I guess essentially when it would like break down or something, the lights on this gaming thing would turn red as well. And if you Googled it, it was the red lights of death.
Right.
So I guess that's where people have come up with this.
It couldn't be contrary to what it actually means. So
Okay, cool.
So the red ring is actually about heat or self-maintenance mode. So, and we'll talk about how basically the battery lights indicate if there's a fault or not.
I get a red ring in self-maintenance mode too.
You know
I could see you cheating yourself up for that.
In fact, I could feel you on the sidelines.
Did you just feel me like, oh, I've got this?
It's like
just see you staunching up. All right, so just quickly, I'll let you continue, obviously, but is it so? It's not an indicator that the battery is fucking dead. It's a warning.
It's a warning. It's a warning.
Beautiful.
So, as I said, if the pre-application mode and the battery's getting heated because it's in direct sunlight or it's in a dog box where it's getting heated up, then the battery is going to be hot even before you start using it. And then as you use it, you're going to heat it up even more. And I'm going to talk about some of the operational temperatures of batteries, right? So if that happens, you're not going to get a lot of runtime out of your battery. Now, the 3 posts that we've seen since September has all been Queensland. You guys have had some nasty weather.
Yes.
You've had some high humidity. But at the end of the day, we've been able to educate that don't leave it in direct sunlight.
Yeah.
Don't put it in your dog box. Try different methods to keep it cool. So, and I did a little bit of a test after the 3rd post, and that is in Melbourne. We had a really hot day at 25 degrees. So I've got a commercial heat gun, temperature heat gun. I put the battery down on a piece of travertine paver. On a 25 degree day, I tested the travertine that was at 28 degrees. The battery measured up at 42 degrees, and this was after 5 minutes of being in direct sunlight. Now, the batteries themselves will only operate between minus 10 degrees and that of 70 degrees. So if you're already starting off on a 25 degree day of a 40 degree, and the battery's 42 degrees, you've got another 30 degrees before that battery's going to go into prevention mode. Yep. It's going to go into self-maintenance, and it's going to shut down to protect the battery and as well as the equipment.
Yeah.
And I'm going to talk more about that during the application. So pre-application is just as important as during application.
Yeah, sure. And I mean, it's the same principle. Like, I know it's obviously different, but we get the same things with some of our Catch Pro products. And let's just take the Catch Pro, for example. You might see some negative feedback somewhere, or someone, gives you feedback like, oh, hey, this thing has been bent, or, this is not catching grass. Mm-hmm. And you sort of like, okay, what sort of application are you using it in? And you find out that they're trying to cut like a meter of grass. Mm-hmm. Same thing with the battery. Like, this battery has failed, but yet it's sitting in a hot toolbox where the temperature is, where nothing can function.
And this is really good information too, because it comes back to that whole cost thing. If you're going to drop big dollars on a lot of batteries, you want to know how to keep them from dropping the red light of death on you.
Absolutely. Well, let's call it the red light of heat.
We should probably try and get
it's definitely not death. And as I said, I mean, those posts, we haven't seen any returns. They appear to be working. There's been no negativity come back on those.
I haven't experienced it myself.
No.
I haven't. And I've got, the one that I keep here, that battery is old school. Like, it doesn't have like the little fuel gauge that all the new, like, so I don't know how old that really is, but I haven't experienced any of that. We have all the new style at the village, but...
Well, from a transportation or a storage, ideally they should be kept between 10 and 26 degrees. Now, obviously in Australian conditions, that can be sometimes a little challenging. So, you know, we know of guys using air skis, not full of water, obviously, but just coolers.
And is that a really good solution? Because I saw someone mention that.
Many of them mentioned it. Yeah,
I didn't go back to the thread. And then it got lost in the shuffle. But I just wanted to personally know, is that a good solution?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool.
Anything that you can do to manage the heat of the battery before application is only going to help it during application. Because let's face it, when it's in the machine, it's going to heat up. That's what lithium ion does.
Yes.
It's like putting your mobile phone down on a hot day and coming back to it 2 minutes later. Guess what? That's shut down as well.
It's funny that you said that. I was going to say that's when I always know that we're getting into the warmer season, when you accidentally leave your phone for like it only takes a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
And you come to use it and the whole thing's just shut down.
Yeah.
Same principle, right?
Absolutely. So, and we'll talk a little bit more about, how the battery operates during application, but post-application is just important.
Okay.
You've worked the unit, and if pre-application it's heated up, then of course it heats up during application. Post-application, and if it has got some heat, don't expect it to charge up straight away. It needs time to cool. And this is not just Ego, but this is all lithium-ion batteries.
Yes.
Full stop. So in terms of, as I mentioned, the storage and transportation, between 10 and 26 degrees is ideal. Now, our charging, though, you can charge the battery up to 40 degrees in 40-degree heat. Why? Because our charger has a fan cooling system that as it charges, it's pushing cool air in the battery. And when we talk about our battery, we've got vents underneath, and then that cold air goes through the cells, around the cells, and then out through the front of the battery. So that's why we can charge up in 40-degree heat.
So if I was working a battery, I'm done with it.
Yep.
Would I be better off? So would I get a faster charge if I pulled it off the machine, chucked it in my esky for 10 minutes, and then chucked it on the charger?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Or can you just bung it straight on the charger and it has to cool itself?
Well, you can bung it straight on the charger, and the charger will actually detect the heat anyway. So it's not going to charge it while it's hot.
Ah, okay, cool.
But,
that's awesome.
Instead of working it over, sometimes, it's better, depending on your temperature for the day or depending on the application, how long you've been using it for. Sometimes it's better just to let it cool down.
Okay. Cool.
All right. Now I'm talking in batteries in general here.
Yeah.
So pre-application and as well as post-application.
Now, when we're talking about other brands, and you certainly, this isn't like a slag fest. We don't need to slag other brands or anything
and
like that.
I'm definitely not here to do that.
No, of course not. Neither are we. But do other brands have, we have this red ring warning? Do any other brands have any other system that you know of? Maybe if any of you guys know, you can leave that in the comments down below. It's just something that I want to know.
Yeah.
I don't know whether do you know if they have any?
I'm not sure.
Systems?
I haven't had anything from Husky.
Because I think what is really important is we're able to educate the public now on something that they thought to be something bad or negative. But this is really a great positive quality.
It's a power management system that protects the battery for longevity.
Yep.
And as well as protects the machine.
Yeah.
Okay. So now because of these posts, we're actually now coming up with a ready reckoner on all the light indications, because there is a lot of complexity, and this battery, which I'll talk about during application in a sec, it has a lot of patents and innovation to it, right? And the battery itself can give the consumer information as to the mode that it's in, whether it's a low charge, whether it's been overheated, whether it's gone into self-maintenance mode, because it has hit 70 degrees. So it stops. It simply stops to protect it. So how about we talk about that?
Okay, sure. Let's.
All right.
Now, for everyone just listening, you could be on the tools working or whatever. If you, if that is the case, we've actually got some battery samples here. You can come back to the YouTube and have a look if you're interested. But let's continue and Bazz, go for it.
All right, so what I've got here is our own Ego 56 volt arc battery. I'm going to talk to the arc side of it, but generally most batteries are what we call a brick. So as you can see here, it's a rectangular box and it has a lid. Some of them have got air vents, some of them do not. Now, the other thing that we've got to bear in mind here is that whether they've got vents or not, generally these fit into a compartment.
Okay.
Now, even if they've got vents, how are they supposed to breathe if they're in a compartment?
Yeah.
Whereas Ego, all products have an open compartment. It slides onto the product, so therefore the heat can dissipate away from the actual battery itself. But if we talk about a brick battery, now I'm going to be careful not to show the brand on this, but we're going to pull this out. And what we got here is exposed electronics, right? But what we've also got in here is some cells. But you'll also notice that there's some cells internally here, right, which are inside of the external.
Yes.
How is the heat on these externals supposed to escape?
Right.
Yeah.
That heat, that cell there is going to heat this cell here. So, and the other thing is that when it comes to the electronics, and as we can see from a waterproof or a dustproof side of things, not everything is protected.
Yes,
now,
sure.
Not all brands, but a lot of brands generally have a couple of sensors to detect the heat in the cells.
Yeah.
Now, if this cell in here heats up and yet it's not on the sensor, guess what? It's not going to sense that it's heating. It's not going to sense until other cells start heating up, and then it detects that it's going to heat up.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't detect it, can it then just cause damage?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The two biggest
Or
killers.
will it just fail, or will it cause ongoing damage?
That depends on the brand and I guess the techs and the specs that they've got behind it and the innovation that they've got behind it.
So
And every brand has their own.
If it burns an individual cell out, like the batteries still might work, but you won't get that runtime.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, look at you over here.
Yeah,
No.
he's all over it. Absolutely. So that can affect the longevity of it, but it can also affect the runtime as well. Okay, so that's something that that's your standard type of well, not your standard. As I said, most brands are like that. I'll just put that
That's
to the
fine.
side without showing the brand. So let's talk about the Ego. The first thing that you'll note is
just quickly before we get to that style. So brick style batteries. That's just the general setup.
That's the general setup.
Okay, cool.
Yep, that's the general setup. And as I said, each brand will have their own innovation and technology to try and manage that heat.
Yes.
And as I said, the two biggest killers of battery, one is heat.
Yes.
The other one is just simply being dropped.
Yeah.
All right, because if you break the connection between the cells, you're not going to fix it. It's a replacement or a throwaway.
Okay.
So we have there's three main components behind an Ego battery, and the first one is what we call the mechanical, and that is the arc shape. Now, if we have a look underneath, we've got a lot of big air vents here.
Yeah.
So from a charging point of view, the air's blowing in.
Yes.
And then it escapes through the front. So it's cooling the cells down as it charges. But obviously from the heat of the unit that it's powering as well, same deal. The heat then escapes through the base and then out through the front. But then when we open up the unit, and this has been opened up quite a few times, what we're going to talk about now is that mechanical side of things. So the way that you get your voltage is a series of circuits, but then the way that you get your amp power is a parallel circuit. Now this is a 2.5 with 14 cells in there, and they're Samsung cells, so we look at quality.
Yeah.
Can I butt in for 2
Sure,
seconds?
absolutely.
Can we talk quickly about what the amp hour is your, say, runtime or fuel gauge, for example? That's correct?
Yep.
And the voltage is that the actual output, or is that...
That's the transfer of energy.
Okay.
So the series circuits is your voltage. The parallel circuit is your amp hour.
Okay.
All right, and your amp hour basically represents your runtime, and then when you times your voltage by your amp hour, that gives you your watts hour.
Fucking I just got lost.
Yeah.
All right.
So we hope everyone at home is listening. You can rewind this.
We need Gary.
Gary, help us.
Voltage times by amp hour.
Yes.
Gives you your watt hour. So this is a 2.5. So 56 volt times by 2.5 amp hour is 140 watt hours. Okay. Whereas our 56 volt 10 amp hour battery is 560 watt hours. So 10 amp hour times 56 volt, 560 watt hours. Now, this is a 2.5.
Yes.
So parallel circuit is your amp hour. So what the 10 amp means is that there's 4 layers, 4 parallel layers. So that's why you end up with a bigger battery.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's it from a mechanical point of view. Let's talk about it from a chemical point of view. Now, this is completely innovative to Chevron or to Ego, and that is we have this keep cool technology. Now, everything we're talking about this here right now is during application. Once again, you've got to protect it pre-application, you've got to protect it post-application. But during application, the keep cool cell technology, just give that a tap. I mean, that's solid, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So this is what we call our phase change material. Cells, as they're being used, are gonna heat up. When these cells get to around 50 degrees, this solid phase change material will start to liquefy during the heat away from the cell.
Wow.
So then what that does is...
Like this actual...
Yeah.
Okay.
That starts liquefying, drawing heat away from the cell. So what that will do is it'll keep your battery cooler for longer from 50 degrees through to 70 degrees.
Wow.
So cool.
And that is why your application is so important, to keep your battery as cool as possible. So when you're in application, you can work it hard.
Yes.
But if it starts off at 50 degrees, guess what?
Yeah.
You haven't given your phase change material time to
solidify or
to liquefy.
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
To liquefy. So that's why I'm saying the cooler the battery is pre-application and then ready for use, you're going to get full maximum runtime and power out of your battery.
That's awesome.
So we've talked about mechanical, we've talked about chemical. So let's talk about electronic. We spoke about this possibly having 2 sensors, not being able to absolutely detect the cell that might heat up.
Yeah.
What we have in here is a sensor for every individual cell. So you can see through here that everything is wired up. There's enough wires there running to each cell to make sure that the cells are equalized.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you start get variance power behind each cell, you're going to start losing life. You're going to start losing runtime and power as well.
Did you have to go to university to learn this shit so you could sell it, or is it just
we've got a training manual.
or is it the passion that?
It's the passion, but
Yeah. I keep thinking venom is inside one of these little things. It's like
the liquid.
I just like how it's all nicely color coded. You know, like you got your green cells. And,
You just hit on another key point. As a side discussion, anything on Ego that is green is a call to action.
yeah.
Anything green on the Ego is a call to action. All right. So that will liquefy. So what that will do is between 50 to 70 degrees, it will give you more longevity. Sorry, I've got to sideswipe then. Electronically, so each cell is managed. So if one cell heats up,
Yes.
then that will shut the battery down.
Okay.
All right. So once again, that is there to protect the battery and to protect the unit that you're using.
Yeah.
But what also gives us the ability of being dustproof and waterproof, have a look at the electronics. Completely resin proof.
Yeah.
Right there. Everything is absolutely
you mean
protected.
so there's no exposed motherboard as
There's no
opposed to...
exposed electronics.
Okay.
Now, water and electronics.
Did I say that correctly? Is that a motherboard?
So is that actually just
You can
filled
call it a
like?
motherboard.
So
It is now.
So you've got that board, and that's actually just topped with
Absolutely.
Can we
That's
just,
pretty
BJ,
cool.
can we just show it up to the camera?
So I just thought that was a little plate, but that's actually
That
just
is
full
full
of
of
resin.
electronics. That is full of electronics. And that is what makes our battery so unique. Now, we've been in the market since 2014. As I said, we've seen an influx of brands break into it. They're still all dealing with the brick battery.
Yes.
We have multiple patents on this.
Oh, okay. That's where I was going next.
Right.
Is there a reason why no one else has run with this arc style?
They've tried. But we're going to protect this IP like you wouldn't believe, because there is a lot of innovation. Now, this phase change material is our own proprietary innovation. And that's where we talk about Chevron being in the top 10 power tool manufacturer in the world, and we have full vertical integration. The only thing that we do not R&D and manufacture here is the Samsung cell. Everything else, Chevron/Ego, R&D, manufacture, produce.
Yeah.
Everything you see here.
And do you think, like later on, do you think there would be ever a situation where you say, where you lease out this design to another company, or is it just like, no, this is ours and we're never doing anything, it's always going to be ours?
Yeah.
Or if there was an opportunity where, someone eventually said, look, you guys have got patents all over this, but we've done our research and we like this technology. Can we get amongst it? Do you ever think? Oh, obviously it's not, a call that you. I'm just talking about hype, because you see a lot of brands in the industry, they do business like that.
Absolutely.
Just wondering if.
Oh, look, over the years we've had many knocks on the door.
Yeah, okay.
And I think that the latest one that we've partnered up with is Allet.
Okay,
the cylinder mowers.
What brand? Sorry,
Allet.
Okay, yeah, sure.
So the cylinder mowers, they're going to start using our batteries and really taking the handle concept of our self-propelled mowers.
Yeah.
So that's going to be powered by Ego, but Allet are the experts in cylinder mowers.
Yes.
So that's where we have partnered up, and as I said, there's been many a knock on the door, but at the moment, it is Ego proprietary innovation. So. We talk about how we manage the heat, how we try and protect the battery, and how we try and protect the motor. So during application, we have a lot of keep cool technology, but it's what the consumer does leading up to that application that is just as important than after the application.
Yeah.
Because we're trying to do everything we can during application, but if it's indirect sunlight, you're going to cook it before you start it.
Yeah.
And that's battery in general. That's not just Ego, but that's battery in general.
Can we touch on the longevity of a battery? Because there's obviously, people see the comments. I believe in the post that I was referring to earlier about the calculations of cost versus and all the maintenance talk. Mm-hmm. There was something in there about the longevity.
Yep.
Saying, someone saying like, okay, you have to replace this battery every 24 months. Now, I know that I've had my battery well and truly beyond that. Mm-hmm. And it gets a lot of use. What's the real info behind this? What can people expect? Now, we know that, let's say your smartphone or your laptop, whatever it is, some of these products are built to last 24, 36 months, and then they don't function properly anymore. They do that so that you keep reinvesting and supporting the businesses. Is that the case with Ego? What's the scoop?
Yep. So we claim that you can get 800 to 1200 cycles, a cycle being a charge.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, like any battery though, that the closer you get to the 800, so what we claim is that when you get to around your 800 cycles, is that you'll have about 80% of your capacity left out of your battery. But then between 800 to 1200, you're going to reduce your capacity from 80% down to as low as 10%.
Okay, now is this, when you say cycles and you say your charges, is this the same when you're using quick chargers full time, or is this?
We base that on rapid charger. So that's our quick charger. So because obviously you're pumping a lot more power into it, which then obviously brings in heat. But that's why the fan cooling system in our charger is so important to this process.
So this person that had, I don't know, I can't remember who it is, and it was a fair post. They actually had some sort of merit behind their actual post. Mm-hmm. Is that what you're saying? Is there is essentially that and however long 800 cycles, so however long that takes. When I looked at it, I thought like, geez, how can someone say? But then I guess this 8 to 1200 cycles, they could have calculated it that way.
I guess what you got to realise here too is that even though we launched Ego in 2014, this was in 10 years of development prior to launch.
I was going to ask that before, because when you were talking about all of this stuff, I thought surely they didn't just wake up one day and be like, "Oh, let's do this and let's bring it out
in the basement."
Let's bring it out.
Give us some of your goo, buddy. We're going to put it in a cell.
So 10 years of R&D.
Yeah.
Right. So we're testing it for life cycle as well.
Yeah.
So when we talk about cycles, though, that is charging. Now, from a charging point of view, obviously to maximize your cycle, you want to flatten it. When I say flatten it, it's going to be around that 10%.
Yep. Okay.
That becomes a cycle. But if you go charging it when it's about 50%, guess what? That's still a cycle.
Oh, okay. That's great to know.
Okay.
That's really good to know.
It doesn't mean either or. So
I've probably been a culprit of that.
Yeah, me too.
I keep a designated blower here, just outside my office, because we've got lots of trees and everything.
Right.
And the mess just really just messes with me. And so 2 or 3 times a day, and I certainly don't charge it like that, but sometimes I have been a culprit of it.
Yeah, sure.
So no, that's great for me to know.
The other thing is on the lights. And
we should have done this podcast a couple of years ago.
I just want to touch on the lights too, because as we were talking about the red light, right? So the red light can either indicate that it's got a low charge, it can indicate that it's either been overheated, or even if it's too cold. The other thing is that if it experiences any of that, then it can go into self-maintenance mode as well. And that self-maintenance mode is one to really make sure that everything is working in order. Now, the time for battery failure is when you start seeing alternating green and red lights. That's what indicates that there's a battery fault.
Okay.
Not just a constant red ring that flashes on for 10 seconds and goes off. Now, what we have behind the new generation of batteries is there's multiple indications on the light. Now, we're in the process and final stages of providing a ready retina for individuals that if they are experiencing a light that they haven't seen before, they'll be able to look up that light based on an image, and they'll be able to read what the challenge is, or what the battery is doing, what it does on a charger, and what the solution is.
Wow.
Like a troubleshooting guide.
Absolutely.
Well,
but once again, battery failure is generally indicated by alternating red and green lights.
Okay.
Basically,
I don't think I've seen that one posted anywhere.
That's a battery fault, not the red ring.
Yes.
It's telling you that the battery's either too hot, too cold, or it's thinking about what's just happened to it.
Cool. So we've seen a little bit of you on LMCA. You've been pumping them pretty hard. They love it on there. You did mention a couple of weeks ago like a commercial warranty process that you guys are going to put in place. Can you tell us a bit more about that? Because I know that lots of people will be interested in that.
Yeah, well, let's face it, the world, the hardware market has had enormous growth lately, right?
Yeah.
And what we're seeing is an influx of sales growth. And in our world, the last 2 years has been extremely kind to ego. But what we're also seeing is the challenges that come around supply as well, especially in parts.
Yeah.
So, and we also see repair shops that are really out by 6 to 8 weeks on petrol repairs, and this has an effect. So from a commercial standpoint, we know that tools are used for income.
Yep.
Without the tool, you don't earn. So we've come up with a process from a commercial point of view that as long as the consumer notes that they're a commercial guy, we'll prioritise that. But the other thing is for LMCA members, that if they mention they're from LMCA, I get to see the personal messages. There's the Jason and marketing manager and myself. We manage this, so we get this directly, and we'll expedite it. We'll escalate it to the point that it needs. But we've got to be fair and reasonable about what's happening in the market.
Yeah, of course.
But, so if you're out there and you're a contractor, you've probably heard us talk about LMCA before. It's just a Facebook support group full of contractors. As well as distributors, general managers, all sorts. It's just a big community.
Yeah, there's a couple of guys that own shops that look after certain brands, and it's just a wealth of information. It's an awesome community.
So you can get on there, join the community if you have any issues. Across multiple brands, but. Today we're focusing on ego. If you have any questions, you put up your hand, chuck a post in. Then you can talk directly to the general manager.
Which is awesome.
And I think it's great that you guys your presence is now known there. You can support the commercial contractor community, because that's really, we know that the domestic market is always going to be there.
Yeah.
But there's different needs from the commercial market. And,
absolutely.
I think it's only going to grow from here, because as you mentioned, previously, we're all being forced into this concept now.
Yep.
We can all educate ourselves and just get more familiar with this.
Well, that's why we joined a group like LMCA, right? Because we wanted to learn about the commercial market, because we know where our product road is today, but we know where it's going to be in the next 2 to 3 years, and we know that it's coming. Market restrictions are happening now, and they're only going to become more challenging. Yeah. And let's talk about California in 2024. Right?
Oh, yeah.
And you know what started that? Because they looked...
Ego?
Well, I'd love to be taking credit, but this was about a petrol blower being used for an hour was then compared about somebody driving from Melbourne to Brisbane, for argument's sake. Mm-hmm. That's the sort of emissions that a petrol blower used in an hour is actually emitting.
Oh, wow.
Melbourne to Brisbane, 770 kilometres. Now, we did that as a comparison to Aussie, but they were talking, 1,200 miles, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And we just converted it. And that's what... they discovered that, and that's why they're now talking about 2020.
Do you know if there's any other states or communities in America that are going to make that shift as well? Or is California just like they're just their own world?
Look, California's been focused and leading on it for a long time.
Yep.
4 or 5 years ago, they were offering significant rebates for petrol trading or gas trading, right? Yeah. Trade in your gas, get a rebate, put that towards a battery mower. So, they've certainly been at it. They're going to formalise it. It's interesting reading. Will they get it sooner rather than later? Who knows? Yeah. It's got to be passed, right? But look, some in the group may talk that battery's not quite there yet. We feel that there's probably only one brand that is true commercial, but be prepared to pay for it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, look, there's always going to be, everyone is going to get there eventually. You know what I mean? It's just, look, we always say with brands, we've got a Skag ambassador here. I also do some work with some brands. At the end of the day, all of the brands, they're all, this is just our take. They all offer something. They all have their own little ingenuity and, just like this ARC style, everything like that. To me, as a consumer or as a contractor, it's where can I get it, what sort of support can I have, and what sort of longevity can I get out of the machine.
Absolutely.
When those, if at the moment in 2022, if the machine is on the shelf, someone's going to buy it because not every brand can do that at the moment.
That's it.
Well, what we're offering is a solution to a challenge today. We may not be there from a full commercial point of view, but from a domestic, it's being used to overcome an issue or a challenge in the market.
Yeah.
And whether that's noise or whether that's because I've got vibration or white finger, it's a solution to someone's challenge at the moment, whether it is domestic, whether it is commercial. But let's be fair and reasonable here. If a domestic product is being used for a commercial application, there's a reason why there's a warranty difference, and it's not there to be cutting meter grass height. It's there for maintenance. And those that are supporting Ego, that's what they're using it for.
Yeah.
They're using it for maintenance. They're not using it for slashing.
Yeah, and saying that, out of selfish reasons, are you guys going to get a commercial pole hedger? Not the extension hedger, just a normal extension pole normal pole hedger.
Well, what I want to know...
I've hit on a...
Is it going to be a multi-tool or...
Let's just say let's just say we're going to have an exciting 2 years of new product introduction.
I've heard it here first
in both
More
domestic
sessions, guys.
and as well as commercial.
Okay, cool.
Nice.
Exciting 2 years.
Yeah.
We'll continue to lead the industry in a lot of different products and being first to market.
Okay, cool. Just something that I wanted you to confirm for me. So we see different brands. They evolve and they upgrade and they change models, and obviously you guys have done that too.
Yeah.
Has the battery always been the same? Can you always, if you buy a brand new battery in 2022, will any Ego tool accept that battery?
So we future-proofed Ego batteries from day one.
Yeah.
So once again, all our products have open battery compartments. Now, even with the new 12 amp battery that we're releasing towards the end of this year, that's even going to fit into our 42 centimeter mower because we built the battery compartment to take a larger amp hour. Nice. All right. Now, because all our batteries have open compartments, you can go putting a 2.5 to a 12 amp. It just means there's going to be a weight difference.
Yeah,
but you're going to have extended runtime, right?
Yeah.
So, but the batteries, because they are full of innovation and proprietary innovation, they haven't changed internally. If anything, we've probably improved it here and there, but not a lot. What we have improved on our batteries is the battery indicator. So we had the solid light. So, once upon a time, the solid light would be green, and then when it hit red, it would be 15% charge.
Okay.
But now we've got the 5 LEDs. And with the 5 LEDs, that tells you when it's 20, 40, 60, 80, 100%.
That's what I love on the new ones.
Yeah, me too.
But now, because of that light indication, it's giving you other information about it being heated or low charge or self-maintenance.
I feel like in a couple of years you'll be able to walk over to an Ego battery with your phone and just like put your camera on it, and it'll just start bringing up all this bloody info.
Yeah.
Oh, no way!
So you can imagine that as a business, we look at every aspect to do with our product, whether it be from battery to product. Where else can it sit in the market?
That was a very GM answer to the.
We've got to be protective of where we've come from, where we are, but more importantly, where we're going.
Yeah.
And as I said, it is exciting times for our brand with what we are producing and coming out, and you'll get to see a lot of it. Let's face it, it releases in the US first. Once it's online, it's global.
Yep.
So the ZTR, for argument's sake, when they launched that, we woke up to half a dozen messages. When is it coming to Australia?
Yeah. I remember when that was when when that was first. I think the Dirt Monkey demo was dropping. That was when I was always looking at. Now I'm just busy a person, and I don't get a chance to go on YouTube that much. But I remember getting all the notifications and looking at it and thinking like, this is going to be fantastic. School canvases, villages. I know that it's going to be a domestic spec, but there'll be commercial applications where this can make sense.
We've had inquiries. It's already there, and I've got to say, we've got one in the office, and we've had a bit of fun on it. I've enjoyed taking it for a run and doing monos. It's got some power behind it, but there's a lot of features to this that you can then customize to your own ride as well.
Yeah,
so
sure.
Variable speed in both the blade as well as the unit, air seats.
I'm not sure if we exactly touched on it. When will that be available in the Australian market?
Soon.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you be a little bit more specific or not quite?
Love to be, but we're basically in launch mode. So
it'll be out for next season.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Look, it was launched in the US earlier this year. Last year.
Yeah.
So it was launched last year. But yeah, there were some modifications we wanted to make to meet the Australian conditions, the needs. So we're going to a 25mm cup.
Yes.
The US model doesn't have a 25mm cup.
Yeah.
So we've had to make some modifications to that. From a firmware update, there'll be some changes to that. We're working towards it to meet the Aussie market.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Sounds great. Well,
but more to come.
Yeah, of course. Well, hey, I feel like I don't know how long we've been going for. I feel like we could probably keep going for a while longer. Maybe we've got like a part 2.
Yeah.
Next time.
Happy to come. Maybe I'll bring some product in.
Yeah, sure.
We'll fit in the catch row shed.
Okay, well, I think we're getting about time to put a bow on this episode. I just want to say thank you so much.
Appreciate it, really.
Appreciate it.
It's been
good to catch up.
It's been a great, informative episode. Let us know if you enjoyed that. Definitely leave your comments down below. Don't forget to write us a review. Reach out to Ego if there's anything you want to know. Now, where can people get these products? If they've seen this episode and they just want to go and get something, where are the places that they can go to grab some gear?
All right, so the best thing you can do is jump on our website. We've got a store locator there. All you need to do is put in your suburb, your postcode, and you'll be able to find your closest Ego dealer from there. Now, we're in some national retailers, but certainly independent mowing specialist is one that we focus on going forward.
Awesome.
Sure, so don't forget to get amongst it. BJ, is there anything that you want to
I can't wait for the reviews in our second episode for the week, so look forward to that. And
don't forget Thursday morning, get us amongst it before the weekend, and then there'll be another episode on the Sunday following.
Awesome.
Thanks very much, everyone.
Cheers,
See
guys.
ya.